pretty aware of my surroundings.
That's what he just said.
Yeah.
Big retention.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, June 18th, 2018, 7 p.m. Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Moheski. Patke.
Here.
Pettit.
Here.
Skornia.
Here.
Sullentrup. Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated June 4th, 2018? Heidrich.
Aye.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Aye.
Pettit.
Yes.
Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Waterman.
Yes.
Having read the minutes, are there any comments or questions? Any corrections?
Not, I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Holtmeyer, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated June 4th, 2018. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote to approve the minute. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the collector's report summary for January and February 2018, city investment report summary, January and February 2018, pawn shop business license renewal, liquor license renewals, fireworks display permit requests for the American Legion Post 218 for July 4th, 2018, and you have on your blotter another addition to your liquor license requests. It's for Augusta Brewing Venture to sell daily and Sunday sales by the drink.
Any questions or comments regarding any of those items on the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Pettit, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, renewal of city's property casualty insurance and payment authorization.
Okay, in your packet is the information regarding the renewal of our property and casualty insurance.
And the only thing I would like to say, we did go out and receive another proposal. As you can see, I think within the letter within your packet, staff is recommending to stay with Daniel and Henry. We have the representatives here. Amy and Jim are here, so they can kind of walk you through some of the changes that we'll have in our policies this year.
Okay, would you like to?
Thank you, Darren. I'm Amy DeBlasi with the Daniel and Henry Company, and Jim Vernon and I are just going to offer some general comments on the property and casualty insurance renewal. So, generally speaking, the year June 30, 2017 to June 30, 2018 was a tough year for claims. There are 3 lines of coverage in particular that I'll mention. The property coverage with Chubb, the workers' compensation with Missouri Employers Mutual, and the cyber liability coverage, which is with BCS Insurance. All 3 of those lines of coverage experienced very significant 6-figure losses. And fortunately, we were still able to negotiate very favorable renewal offers from those carriers. Just for an example, BCS, the cyber carrier, paid a very, very significant loss, and the premium increase at renewal was very insignificant. You notice that number in your packet. We marketed the city's account as we do regularly. We proposed 2 carrier changes for this renewal. Number 1, we recommended a move to Indian Harbor for your law enforcement liability. And number 2, we recommended a move to Global Aerospace for your airport liability. Those 2 changes created a premium savings of $6,807. We again took a look at alternate carriers for workers' compensation, which is the largest coverage premium-wise that the city purchases. The next best alternate quote we received for workers' comp was still $43,000 higher than Missouri Employers Mutual. So often, I'll just say that pricing continuity can be achieved by remaining with the same carriers. But with that being said, there are also benefits to testing the market and looking for other alternatives. And lastly, we just want to thank all of you for helping us to maintain and improve the city's great insurance program, which I think is now well established. And you and your staff do an amazing job of reporting claims and incidents, communicating with the insurance adjusters, thoroughly completing applications, keeping track of the property, auto, and equipment changes, and keeping us up to date with developments in Washington. So I just wanted to thank you all personally, Mary, Darren, Sherry, Darren D., John, Andrea, Shauna, Chief Helmich, and Chief Menifee, and Mayor Lucy. Thank you for all your hard work, and we enjoy working with each of you. And let's hope 18-19 is a good year. And I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thank you.
I think Amy's pretty well said everything there. I'm very pleased with the carriers that we have. They really all stood up and were not really difficult with us this year. Chubb on the property, Travelers on the main lines, Missouri Employers on the work comp all did a good job, and BCS on the cyber insurance. Their premium changed by $1,000. So I think that was a good result. I think you have some good carriers there. Let's have a real good year this time, and we'll have some good results for you next year.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for us?
Good with me.
Doesn't look like it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to accept and approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Waterman, seconded by Hydrich, to accept and approve the insurance renewal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve that item. Thank you.
Public Facilities Authority reappointment.
This evening, we have a reappointment of Debbie Dorr to the Board of Directors of the Washington, Missouri Public Facilities Authority. And her term will expire in 2021. This authority has, how many members?
I think,
5?
oh, wait,
Three.
3, sorry.
Three members on this authority. We don't use this quite too often.
We just had our annual meeting.
But we had the annual meeting, so, anyway, so we submit Debbie Dorr for renewal. Any questions or comments?
If not, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hydrich, seconded by Holtmeyer, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
Mayor's presentations, appointments and reappointments. Mayor's proclamation, LGBTQ+ month.
Well, the mayor's walking up, I just want to make it clear to the public and to whoever's in the stands that the council doesn't vote on proclamations. I've been asked about that from a lot of people, and I want to make it clear. None of these proclamations are ever voted on.
Okay, so this evening we have a proclamation for LGBTQ+ month. Are you Juanita by chance? Okay, so Juanita had contacted me and asked about doing this. We had done it last year and felt comfortable with doing it again this year. So anyway, so we have a mayor's proclamation, City of Washington, Missouri, for LGBTQ+ month. Whereas the Library of Congress and other affiliates, like the Community of Washington, have led observance of LGBTQ+ Pride Month during the month of June to commemorate the Stonewall riots of June 28, 1969. And whereas millions of participants from around the world have traveled to commemorate and honor the LGBTQ+ members of the community and to hold memorials for those who have been largely overlooked, silenced, and assaulted due to an aspect of their identity. And whereas the community of Washington is home to many LGBTQ+ citizens, included in ranks of esteemed and accomplished students, service providers, local business owners, and community leaders. And whereas through increased visibility, education, and awareness on LGBTQ+ diversity, we can achieve acceptance, inclusion, and celebration of the LGBTQ+ members of our community of Washington, Missouri. Then therefore, be it resolved that I, Sandy Lucy, Mayor of the City of Washington, do hereby proclaim the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the City of Washington, Missouri, and ask our fellow citizens to take the time to become more aware of the significant accomplishments of this vital community. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Washington, Missouri, this 18th day of June, 2018. Signed, Sandy Lucy, Mayor. Here you go.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, very good. For being here.
If you don't mind, is anyone here from the Human Rights Task Force? Yeah, I'm a member also of the Human Rights Task Force. We seek to address all the issues in our communities, to bring people closer together, and everyone stand together. So we as a group also support, I believe, your proclamation, Mayor, and want to seek to bring forward issues that the Pride community has to face, and that remind everyone they are part of our community and they work with us and together with us in this community to help make this community too. So.
Okay.
Police Department reappointments.
Okay, this evening, we have two different sets of reappointments. We'll do them separate, you think, or do them all together?
Oh, let's crowd them all up here together.
You want to crowd them all up there together? Okay. So,
Officer Walters,
Officer,
Sergeant Sloan, Officer Pinter is, I believe, at American Legion, Sons of American Legion meeting tonight, so he couldn't make it. Officer Gibson, Officer Jurgens, Officer Yawitz was on a call taking care of our citizens, so he's not available right now. So you can stand here. You're the newer guys. These are the older gentlemen.
the new guys and
Older
the old
guys.
guys? Oh, come on. Okay.
Veterans, rookies, so there you go. Requesting reappointment for one-year reappointments for Sergeant Sloan and Officer Walters and Nathan Pinter, and for 6-month appointments for Officer Yawitz, Gibson, and Jurgens. They have served 6 months for you so far. They've done a fantastic job. We'd like to keep another 6 months and see how they do. I'm sure they will serve this community and make us all proud, as these two gentlemen and Detective Pinter have done. They are all wonderful examples of service to our community. Some officers we can be proud that we have in this community and take care of citizens. So they've done a wonderful job. So I would request you reappoint them for a year and these gentlemen for 6 months.
Okay. So we have the reappointments of Patrol Officer Gregory Walters, Detective Nathan Pinter, Sergeant Chad Sloan, Patrol Officer, and those were for 1 year, Patrol Officer Zachary Yawitz, Patrol Officer Jason Gibson, and Patrol Officer Benjamin Jurgens for their second 6-month term. Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Hydrich, to approve the reappointment of those officers, and we congratulate them for a job well done. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
You
Council.
vote, you approve.
Appreciate it.
And I just brought this along because it shows the involvement that our officers have in our community. This is Officer
Unken? Yes.
who is a relatively new officer as well.
He is.
Newer than you guys. Anyway.
These are the old guys compared to him.
And how fun to see his picture in the paper and showing the, and promoting reading. So,
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
I think that's great.
Just to let everybody know, July 14th at Neighborhood Reads, he'll be there at 10:30, reading a book with Officer Boone helping him,
Okay,
because Officer Boone says he doesn't read as well, but
okay. Well, I mean, his favorite book as a child was Go Dog
Go
Go.
Dogs Go.
I think most of us have read that book. So anyway, but.
they will be there that date reading books to children, so.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool, and I thank all of you for your involvement in the community and just the great job that you do. And I'm
enjoy
sure I'm speaking for all the council members up here because it's so good to see you out and about in the community. So in Washington, our police officers are
Officer Gibson and I
revered.
recently attended the anniversary of the All Abilities at the high school,
Yeah.
where those individuals that have challenges physically and that come out, and they have all kinds of games, soccer, just all kinds of games, and do relay races. I will say his team beat my team in the relay race, but I did a sack race. We won't show you pictures of that. But him and I did a good old hoedown out in the center. Everybody, they could see that because we do the, what is it, the hokey pokey? Yeah, we do the hokey pokey. But we did a hoedown to warm everybody up. So,
That's
but
a
it's
good-
always a lot of fun.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for serving our committee. Our community.
Public hearings, rezoning request, R1A Single Family to R3 Multifamily, 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel number 10-7-25.0-035.33.000. Need a motion to postpone.
This item was tabled at Planning and Zoning, so that's why we're postponing.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Waterman to postpone the first public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you postpone the item. Thank you.
What is the result of that? It'll have to go back next month?
It's
or
back
whenever?
at Planning and Zoning in July, and then if they make a recommendation, we'll move it back to you then in July.
It was tabled at.
I understand. I just
Yeah.
know where we stood, if we're on a timetable.
We post the public hearing notice or whatever, that's the reason why we have to go ahead and post that we're also postponing it.
Right.
Rezoning request, C2 Commercial to PDR Planned Development Residential, 2550 East 5th Street. Again, a motion to postpone, please.
Make a motion. Second.
We have a motion by Waterman, seconded by Pettit, to postpone this item as well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you postpone the item. Thank you.
Voluntary annexation, 16.8 acres. David Campschrader, a motion to postpone, please.
I'll motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Waterman, seconded by Patke, to postpone this item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you postpone the item. Thank you.
Rezoning request, R1A Single Family to C2 Commercial, 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel number 10-5-21.0-099.090.000.
Okay, Sal?
Okay. So hey, I'm going to flip through this presentation a little quickly because this There were 4 requests as part of this redevelopment. As you just heard, 2 of them were motioned to be postponed. It was 2 requests to rezone to commercial, which we're going to move forward with, a request to annex as multifamily, and then a request to rezone an adjacent parcel that was already in the city limits to multifamily. The multifamilies have been postponed, but the commercials they're moving forward with. So I'll quick through. This was the area to be annexed that they've decided to postpone. Zoning map. And so let me back up, just so we know where we're at. This is Pottery Road, and South Old Pottery Road comes off of here and accesses. So this is actually, this darker line you can't really see, it's in the city limits here. And so his is Highway 100, just so we all know where we're at.
Yes.
Again, the area to be annexed was postponed. This was to be rezoned to multifamily, which has been requested to postpone as well. And then that brings us to the first request that Mary just read out. This is a rezone, approximately 7 acres. Let me pull that up. Make sure I got the right one. This is the R1A to C2 general commercial. They're wanting to match the zoning that you see further east here, the Jasper Farm that is currently zoned commercial, and anything with highway frontage. So this is the first request, and then we'll get to the second, which is this smaller piece here. They're requesting it to be C2 general commercial. That is not part of a planned district. If they come in with a site plan later to develop that property commercially, they would have to go through site plan approval, provide any screening to any additional residential, as well as provide stormwater retention and all things of that nature. So we are recommending approval of this rezoning as well as the next one. So if you have any questions of me, not, I'll open it up to the public.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Right, thank you. So this is a public hearing on this particular item. Is there anyone here who would like to address the council regarding this item? Okay. Any questions from council members?
Do the people who border this, they got a written notice, is that correct?
Correct. So we sent out a notice of public hearing to everyone within 185 feet, and so we actually use this mapping system to populate that data, and we highlight what you see here in red, and it gives us all the mailing addresses within the owner address within 185 feet. So we hear that often. I don't know if any of these are rental properties, but if it is, the renter doesn't get the notice, the owner does. We had that issue with the one on Fifth Street.
Okay.
So.
We've always historically done that as a courtesy to send those out. The public notice is the only thing that we're required to go ahead and publish. So that includes even sending them out to the residents that are outside the city limits. There are ramifications with regards to if there's opposition to that rezoning, those on the outside of city limits, that would not count. But we just send them a notice anyway, just let them.
So we're required to post it in a newspaper.
Correct.
We do it out of goodness of our hearts to send it to everyone else within 185 feet.
Correct.
It's not required.
It's not required. Okay, I was under the impression it was required.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure it was
Okay.
clear.
It's not required on a rezoning.
On anything.
On
On
anything.
anything.
Okay.
We only do that as a good
Courtesy?
courtesy.
Information.
Okay? All right, I was under the impression it was.
There is, I mean, the 185 feet comes into play if, like I said, if you want to protest that
If you have
rezoning.
protest signed by the residents of 30% or more of the acreage within 185 feet of the rezoning, then it takes a 2/3 majority of the council to approve it. But it really doesn't have any, we're not required to notify them. The only thing we're required to do is publish notice, but we do send out notices anyway.
Correct.
And we don't send out any notices to someone outside of city limits.
No, they still
we
are
did
on.
that.
So
We did that
Okay.
since we get the data from the
Courtesy.
county, whether you're inside or outside, you're on it. You still get the letter. Now, we do not send out letters for annexation. So I know that was a concern. I think whenever we sent out the letters for this area highlighted, or we did not send out letters for this area highlighted. So that's why
Okay,
the people in Meadow Lake wouldn't get a notification for this.
right.
Not all.
That's just the questions came up
Yeah,
last week. I was
correct.
dealing with them, so I just wanted to make sure I get the right answer back.
I got a question on this
Yep.
piece of property right here. That being a flag, basically a flag lot off of Old Pottery Road, and time he puts in his buffer, is there any room to develop?
Well, you're assuming that it's going to be accessed off of South Old Pottery. It could be. And then he would have to show a site plan at that time that it met the requirements. You can put in a driveway, I believe, off of this, and then the buffer would have to be along this property line here, along the southern portion. So I think this would still be developable. The fact that they're requesting to rezone this, and the applicant also owns this piece, let me zoom out here, this piece here, they could extend Don Avenue, which I think is the
Yes.
long-term plan to, as this area develops, extend Don Avenue to this direction. And so they could access what they're requesting to rezone tonight from the east. But, I mean, they could come in the future and say, we'd like to access off South Pottery. One, there's some site plan issues they'd have to submit to make sure they do meet that. Two, we'd have to make sure that South Pottery Road meets the minimum standards existing today, and that they may have to do some improvements to that.
Didn't he say that strip was at least 50 feet wide, so it would meet the requirements for a city street?
I don't know if that was brought up at
Yes.
P and Z.
Yes, he
So,
did.
okay.
He did at that time. He did mention that that would go ahead and meet. I think, you know, obviously for the piece to go ahead and be fully developed commercially, they're going to need to get that access from the east to go ahead and be the main one. That's not going to be a very marketable, in my opinion, piece
Right.
of commercial property if that's the only access that you have to it.
Yeah, I think that was the idea when they came in with this four requests and one submittal, is that this whole area is essentially proposed to be the eastern or the western boundary of this Jasper Farm, this commercial development.
I agree with everything you're saying, but in regards to Greg's question and the neighbors, they're asking, there's no guarantee that we're not going to have a driveway through there off of South
Correct.
Pottery Road.
There is no guarantee.
We're all saying that the speculation is it's going to come from the east, and I think that as well.
Right.
But to reassure the neighbors that they're not going to have a road through there, we don't have that guarantee answer.
I don't think we have that
Yes,
answer.
that is correct. There is no guarantee.
We'd have to come back to plat, preliminary plat, and to meet the requirements for that. South Pottery Road and that.
Correct. There'd be some, I would assume there'd be some improvements done. I'm not aware of what the status of South Pottery Road is.
I mean, we always have the ability to require a traffic study on anything. I mean, depending on what would go in there, we could always require that, and that would point us in the direction of what improvements South Pottery Road may or may not need. I mean, without seeing a plan, there's no way to really speculate. I mean, you could do a loop road essentially to the south too and tie back in, and then, you know, the sky's kind of the limit on how it gets developed.
Because, again, this is still speculation, but the fact that this piece here further west is included, what John's saying, you could connect from here and have this be the main entrance.
Provided it's 50 foot wide.
Right. So it is all subject to a development plan, essentially.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we need a motion to accept this item into the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Scornia, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
An ordinance rezoning 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel ID 10-5-21.0-099-090.000 from R1A Single Family to C2 General Commercial in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. This is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Any questions or comments? Okay.
An ordinance rezoning 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel ID 10-20-0-099-090.000 from R1A Single Family to C2 General Commercial in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
rezoning request, R1A Single Family to C2 Commercial, 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel ID 10-52-21.0-0-099-147.000.
It's a lot easier when these have addresses. This is the adjacent parcel here that has also highway frontage along Highway 100 and is actually adjacent to the existing driveway access to that residential piece of property. That residence is actually not in the city limits, but it is owned by the applicant. And again, we would anticipate that this property, if developed, would be accessed from Highway 100.
Any questions or comments?
Why does that have the same address?
Well, we put it all at 132 Pottery Road because the previous owner had that listed as the address, as this right here. That's that 50-foot wide flag that comes out of there. The pole that comes out of there is the address off of Pottery Road. But that's why we added the parcel numbers to the ordinances just to specify.
Any other questions? We'll need a motion to accept this into the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Pettit, seconded by Holtmeyer, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
An ordinance rezoning 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel ID 10-5-21.0-099.147.000 from R1A Single Family to C2 General Commercial in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. This is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Any questions or comments?
An ordinance rezoning 132 South Old Pottery Road, parcel ID 10-5-21.0-099.147.000 from R1A Single Family to C2 General Commercial in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Solentrup?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Voluntary annexation, 2.13 acres adjacent to the Weber Farm. Jerome Weber.
This is a small piece of the Weber Farm. It's actually not part of the Overlook of Weber Farms development. This is the current owner, Jerome Weber, has requested to annex 2.13 acres to the west. This is his sibling who owns this property. There it goes. Is purchasing this sliver here and wants to bring it into the city limits and then do a boundary adjustment to make this all one lot. So tonight, this is just to start the annexation process and have the public hearing for it. And what we'll do is we'll wait the standard 15 days for anyone to submit opposition, and then we'll bring back an ordinance at the first meeting in July.
Any questions or comments?
Making motion to pass it on.
I think
Okay.
you need to open up.
Okay, so is there anyone here who would like to address the council on this item? Okay,
I'll make that motion.
second that motion.
Second.
Okay, so, anyway, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Patke, to accept this item into the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you accepted the item. Thank you.
Citizens' comments.
Okay, is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda?
You supposed to be in court?
But I just want to, first off, thank all your work for the western section of the Riverfront Trail.
Very good.
A lot of people probably think we're crazy that we're out there using it, especially the way the weather is. You'd be surprised how many people are out there. So thank you all very much. It's really nice, and I like it. And thank you all for the work that is in progress for the celebration for the new bridge.
Oh.
And I know that's coming 3rd of December, I think, is a hard
Well,
date.
not totally nailed down, but
Okay.
in
First
that
week.
neighborhood, first
That
week.
area.
Okay, And along with that comes why I'm here. I'm just wondering if, do we have any idea when Alberici is going to release the easement on the eastern end of the trail that they're using now?
I would say probably what you're going to be looking at is at the end of their contract is when they're obligated to do that.
So they got 9 months from the time they opened the bridge till the demolition of the old bridge.
Correct. We would hope that
They probably won't turn it loose until then.
you may be able to get it sooner, but that is what
At
they're
this point.
contractually obligated, yes.
Okay. Do we know, is it on them to repair?
Yes.
Oh, so
There's an agreement in place that was issued to the contractor. Actually, it was to MoDOT, and for them to go ahead and restore it back, and then MoDOT puts the burden on the contractor.
Okay, so within that 9, do we know does that have to happen within that 9?
That's-
Yeah, that's all.
Yes,
They're
it will be.
demolishing the bridge, so worst case scenario, we're probably looking at maybe a year from this September, and we might actually,
Could
that's
be.
worst case.
That's
Okay,
correct.
well, that was just the questions I had.
Well, thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Thanks for being here.
One more.
Oh, okay.
One more. Do we know if MoDOT has any plans in place for a connection of the, I'm gonna love being able to walk across that bridge or ride a bike, but do we know what's gonna happen after we get across the bridge? Is there any plans for?
Well, there's
a
nothing, there's
connector?
on the other side of the bridge, there is a way to go ahead and go underneath the bridge and get on what would be the north side, if you will, of 47. If you're talking about any connections from that point on
yeah.
to the Katy, not a part of this, not a part of this project.
Okay.
There has been some discussions at the Washington Area Transportation Committee level. They've looked at some options of trying to make that connection, and there's been a lot of talk about possibly even the Augusta Bottom Road being incorporated with that, or even seeking some funding for a straight shot over to the bluff where you wouldn't have to use 47 for such a long causeway in the event of flooding on the north side.
Yeah.
So a lot of discussion over there, but no concrete
Nothing-
plans, if you will.
No plans yet.
Correct.
Yeah, there-
All right, well, thank you very much, guys.
Well, thank you for coming here to get the answers.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Excuse
Thank
me,
you.
sir. Sir, could you just state your name in the microphone for the
Tim
record?
Haberberger, Ward 4.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Ward 4 strong.
Bob, did you want to address the council?
Just here to listen what's happening on the corner.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anyone else?
Report of department heads, train whistle quiet zone update.
John.
Okay, I'll try to keep this as brief and concise as I can. This is a pretty involved process. But back in the early 2000s, as you may recall, I was not here, I don't know the exact date, but I think 2006-ish, the city petitioned the Federal Rail Administration, MoDOT, Amtrak, Union Pacific to make the downtown rail system a quiet zone. So essentially from Lafayette crossing to Kingsland Drive, which is down by the wastewater treatment plant, a quiet zone was established. That process was essentially at the time locomotives or conductors of those locomotives, physically there's signage up and down the tracks where they would not blow the horn because it says quiet zone. And there's a mechanism within the rail, within the companies of the railroad that if they were to do so, there's a, we have repercussions that come back on the rail industry essentially. So with that being said, a few years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I don't know if anyone recalls, there was a pretty major rail accident up in the Northeast. And the administration, the presidential administration at that time, implemented what's called positive train control, PTC. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. But what it is, it's a computerized component to the rail cars that if that human component does not blow the train whistles or slow down around a corner, the computer mechanism will slow the locomotive down or blow the horn. Kind of makes sense. It's just a backup, essentially, insurance. In doing so, though, the passenger depot in 2006 was not necessarily identified as a crossing, as an at-grade pedestrian crossing. And going through this PTC process, it was identified as a passenger train or a passenger crossing that is owned by the city of Washington. So if you go to the passenger depot, you'll see that there's a piece of concrete in between the rails to let people off a westbound train to get to the depot itself. That is defined as a passenger crossing. That was not part of the original quiet zone. So working with Federal Rail for 6 to 8 months now, trying to identify what the issue is, why we get intermittent train whistles. It's because of that positive train control. So we will work with Federal Rail, MoDOT, Union Pacific, and Amtrak. We have been working with them on amending that quiet zone to incorporate the passenger train depot into it. Now, as you can imagine, it's a pretty long, drawn-out, potentially bureaucratic process that takes time. We have contacts with Federal Rail. They're doing everything they can. I've talked to them 3 or 4 times a week over the past month. So this will move pretty quick, but there is a 60-day comment period. I cannot guarantee that MoDOT, Union Pacific, and/or Amtrak won't require us to do any additional infrastructure improvements. Federal Rail is working pretty hard with us to try to get some ideas what that is. Could be anything from additional signage to maybe some automatic closing gates to some other items just to keep people safe. But I don't know that at this time, and I will not know that till after everybody gets down there to meet all those 4 entities. So I just want to give everybody an update. There was a lot of speculation of what the cause was. Was it the bridge going on? Was it, there's a variety of things. This is the reason why you get intermittent train whistles. Somebody brought up a question, well, why does it not happen every time? Positive Train Control was allowed a time to implement this on all locomotives. And Union Pacific runs their locomotives all over the country. They're not always just running on our train tracks. So they're slowly but surely adding this to their locomotives. There's a grace period, essentially. So sometimes you get the trains that have it installed, sometimes you do not. So at this time, I would expect to have intermittent train whistles through town until we can get this resolved through those 4 entities.
It could get worse because they're going to keep adding them to their locomotives.
I think it will get worse because they will be adding to more cars. Now, do I know where those locomotives work at? I couldn't tell you that. But they are bringing more and more trains online with this PTC additive requirement. So if you get any questions or concerns, you could forward them.
Well, at this time, you're just going to try to work with those entities. There's no, I mean, at one point you thought maybe we'd have to hire a consultant or we'd have to do that. And right now you're just going to try to work with the entity.
In 2006 we did.
Yeah.
But we do have some framework here that I'm working, that I have. So I don't think we're going to, Federal Rail has been very, very good to work with. And we have some really good contacts pretty high up with them that I think we can utilize and kind of leverage some things. So I think everything's going to go fairly well. But once again, I don't know what Union Pacific and Amtrak are going to require.
If they would require something
anything.
that was a lot, I guess then we would bring it back to you and consider that at the time.
Correct. Well, at any given, we would have to probably sign a new quiet zone, whatever the documentation is. I don't know what it is yet, but that has to go through council, so you'll be updated. I just wanted to kind of, it's kind of been a little hot topic. Every once in a while I'll see a bunch of emails about it, so I thought everybody should know.
And I'm glad John brought it up because that way the paper can go ahead and cover that as well for those that were not.
Yeah.
I know he sent you out an email explaining this, but that's the
Yeah,
purpose
sorry
of
about
bringing it up tonight.
Mark, did you have a comment?
The only thing I'd like to say is, I mean, I've called John on several situations, and he's like, man, I got so much going on. I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. Is this really an important issue since we have so much else going on that we need to spend time and money on? Is this that hot of a topic that we need to worry about that? I mean, that's my only question.
Well, depending on where you live.
I've had.
Well, yeah, but when you
complaints
buy
from
next to a
citizens.
railroad, you know a train's going to come by.
That live in Andy's complex down there by Sugar Fire that really adamant about they bought the place because it was a quiet zone, and now they're getting whistles.
Okay, see, I don't ever hear those. I enjoy hearing the train whistle myself. But I don't live on the tracks. So.
I'm just saying.
I think being one who lives down there, I think it annoys some more than others. Even at what they're doing now is nothing compared to what it was before we were a quiet zone, because they used to start blowing their whistle at South
blast all
Point,
the way
or, yeah, at South Point, and didn't let up on it until they got to the island. I
Right.
mean, it was continual through the city. And now it is short blows,
Well,
really, you know.
There's a quiet zone established. It's
Right.
from Lafayette to Kingsland. So the
Right.
thing is, you get a shorter duration because it's only the passenger depot crossing that they're blowing at. It's not all the way through. And I would add, I mean, just to address, your initial comment, I mean, we have not done any work per se, other than try to identify why. Because quite honestly, I couldn't get answers from anybody, whether it be MoDOT or anyone. And it's just taken so long to get that done. So there's not been a significant amount of time. And really, it's, once the request is put in, I would hope that it's just a signage situation and it's not a large burden on the city that we'd have to improve some infrastructure and take up a significant amount of time. But I appreciate that.
It was just
But
a question.
Yeah.
No, it is.
I don't know.
I don't know, because I've been, like, I've had several people bring it forward to me. Why is this such an issue? It doesn't bother, well, they don't live down in it
And there's
either.
been significant
So-
development in downtown Washington,
Yeah.
as you know. I mean,
Yeah.
since
Right.
this happened, and if I remember correctly, one of the reasons why the quiet zone was established, tell me if I'm wrong on this, was because when the concrete plant moved, that was slated for redevelopment, potentially residential. And the comment from many people downtown, or developers, was there's no way we could develop residential down here with those train whistles. And if you look and see how that has kind of spurred on this section of the community, I think it was worth the effort at that time. So, I mean, that's kind of, it was all related to housing.
And there's a lot of negotiations that took part to get that.
Now,
to get
that's
to
when
that
they spent a
point.
lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was here. I didn't take part in those negotiations, but I know Mark did, et cetera, and that's why you got 3 crossings reduced down to 2 for public, and that was all part of it.
And it's more surprising now because there was a quiet zone and now they're starting to add them. So maybe I live down there too, you just hear them, so, oh, why are they blowing a whistle? And
But you do kind of get used to it as well. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
I hear them where I live. I mean, it has to be, clear at night, but I mean,
I hear them.
nothing like you could, JoJo. Just a question.
Sure. Okay.
I do have one item. I would normally bring up, wait for admin op, but it's something we need kind of some direction on before the end of the month. I don't know if a couple months ago I reported at admin op that myself and then 2 members of the Chamber of Commerce, JB and Amanda, we did a media tour in St. Louis. We actually JB and myself kind of piggybacked on what Amanda normally does for the fair, and we put together a media package for just here's what's going on in Washington. Here's all the development. Here's what's going on with the bridge. Here's updates on economic development. We went to every major news station, every major print. I was just trying to get the word out. And we had got some good contacts at KMOV, and they actually mentioned, and they had reached out to JB right before that KMOV was looking to put a live camera, one of their 360 live cameras, on the western edge of their viewing area, and they wanted one in Washington. 1, primarily for weather, to show if the weather comes in from the west, but 2, they wanted an area that is fairly active, and so they came out of town and we identified, we wanted to put it on a public building, first of all, and then second of all, at least try to keep it away from a business, because if they put it on there, it would be, they would call it like, that business camera or whatever. So we wanted, since it was the chamber and the city, we wanted to make sure, try to stay as non-biased as possible. And while we were walking through, they actually pointed out the Tower Loan building. We said that we have roof access there. They went up there and decided this was the perfect view for them. They can get
the Tower
Loan building. It's the old bank building on Main Street.
All right.
So we've started discussions with KMOV on how to get a camera up there, and how it typically works is there's no fee for the camera itself. They pay for the maintenance, they pay for the camera, but they don't pay for the internet that it needs to get it hooked up, and then also the one to get the electric to the spot to make sure it has the power to operate it. And so they found the spot that on the corner of that building there, and then asked if we would be, us, the city and the chamber would be willing to provide the internet to that camera. I got a cost estimate from Charter on what it would be to make sure they had the specs and the appropriate amount of megabits. It's $100 a month that we would split with the chamber, and then to get the conduit from the existing electric to the corner of the building would be a one-time fee of $875, so that would be split again with the chamber, $437, so that's a one-time fee. And then it'd essentially be $50 a month. And in discussions with KMOV, you know, and they explained to us that it's not just a camera for the weather, but we can actually utilize this as a marketing tool for us, where if we have a festival going on, a parade, they can show a live feed of that. It's the 360 that can pan down onto the street and can show our festivals on Main Street if there's a parade going down. And they said they'd be happy to use it, you know, for stories, or if they're trying to use filler throughout the day. It's just a live feed to show what's going on. So in discussing with Chamber and Darren, we kind of thought that this was, I thought it was definitely worth the $50 a month, just for the marketing of Washington, be able to use this for downtown and to get, you know, some exposure in the St. Louis region. So before they wanted to they wanted to do their installs on the cameras that they're putting up the last week in June. And so I wanted to get Understall Electric, Greg Understall got us a bid for that. You know, said they can do that next week. Charter said they can get out there next week, and so that was the goal.
So what is the view like? What is in the screen when they're doing?
Well, the primarily view it's looking straight. It'll be northwest, and it's right where on the bend of the river. So you're looking down the river, and I wish I would have taken a picture on my phone. You're looking down river. That's the main goal for them, because then that's primarily where the storms roll in. But then it also will pan down, and it's got the 360 that they have on, you know, the streetcar cameras that they have for like Google. They said they can get 360 access wherever they want. It's got an arm on it that can look down if they need it to. So, and I did obviously get permission from the building owner to make sure before we went through with any of this.
So if there was a festival or something, they could say the Washington Skycam is
and here's
looking
a view
down
of
on the
You know,
crowd.
say it's the Friday of Art and Wine Fest. They say this is going on until Sunday, and then they could show a live feed of the festival going on.
So they would be able to look down Main Street.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Both directions.
Both directions.
Yep, because that was the one thing I said when we told them we were going to do a demolition of the old bridge, they said, well, we love this spot because then we can pan it and do a live feed of the bridge destruction.
Chief, could we use this as a something for your department as well?
Depends if we could hook up to a live feed. I don't know that they record it and keep it recording.
Yeah, that's a good question.
They do not record it. I mean, my guess would be they don't. We will ask, but I
can ask, because we had brought that up actually yesterday. If say we wanted a recording of a parade, if we could go back and get that footage, but you know, I don't have that information right now.
Most DVRs have a certain space of recording they keep.
If a St. Louis news station is going to mention Washington, Missouri on their news channel at least a couple times a day, that's worth $50 a month to me.
It's pretty cheap commercials.
I mean, whether it's a festival or not, whether here's a look at Washington Main Street and you see something, you know, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a benefit for the weather factor. I get that.
Yeah.
What's coming down the river. But if they mention that anything's going on Main Street in Washington, Missouri on the camera, you can't buy advertisement for $50 a month for that.
Real cheap commercial.
Right.
So
and it's actually what spurred from this was Fox 2 has also reached out to us, much cheaper. They just want to do a webcam, but so then Fox 2 now wants to have one as well, which we're working with them. But that'll be just a one-time expense that you hook up to a business. So.
That's good. That means we're in the right track.
Since it's going to benefit downtown Washington too, could they help pay for it?
We could. I honestly didn't even reach out to downtown on this. The KMOV actually went straight to the chamber. And then we had already planned this media tour, so when we went out there, it was just me and JB meeting with them. You know, I know Bridget's aware, but we have not proposed that.
Is it northwest upriver?
It is. You just like approval from council?
Yeah, I just wanted to move forward.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Solentrub, seconded by Hydrich, to move forward on the weather cam. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the item. Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with KJ Understall Construction Company for the 2018 Bluff Road Improvement Project number STP 6400-623 and amend the 2018 budget.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. John?
Finally, we received 3 bids, KJ Understall, Pavement Solutions, Gershenson Construction Company, with only 2 being responsive. The second low bidder actually forgot to provide an itemized bid form for the signalized work, so they do not qualify. However, KJ Understall Construction Company was the low bid for the base bid, the alternate. What is interesting in this is we did a base bid plus an alternate A deduct. You typically don't see that. All base bids typically are an additive. But this was a deduct that came in essentially 4 days prior to the bid being due. I know Andrea worked very hard and identified 2 of the temporary signals that are going to go out in Vossbrink were steel poles encased in concrete, which to me was extremely overkill for a temporary pole situation. So she worked pretty hard with MoDOT and our consultant to agree that the span wires will work fine with wooden poles. So you can see there was a pretty sizable deduct, I think it was $17,000. $20,000 deduct. So that was a positive. That's why you see an additive deduct, which is, you never see that. So we just had a breakdown kind of how the dollars are being identified. I've been briefing you all as far as the ad being over the STP grant with the box culvert. That kind of became the primary, really driving force of this contract. Where initially when we went out for the grants approximately 5 years ago, it was not identified as being a remove and replace, but that has become really a big portion of this project. So knowing that over the past year and a half, we've been trying to collect as much dollars as we could to offset that cost, and there's kind of a breakdown of that. City transportation, sales tax, $227,000, stormwater fund, which funds the majority of that box culvert, $223,000. It's being offset by $591,000 of the original STP grant. We also identified STP NAFA, which is dollars that are going to be leaving the city of Washington and all municipal operations in 2019. So we have approximately $250,000 that we have to spend by 2019. So there's another $120,000. The remaining portion of that money is going to our West Main sidewalk project that we're going to try to get built, or that we will get built this fall. And then we also got $50,000 from Franklin County for a transportation grant, which is a competitive process. So that's how we propose to pay for this. And I think it's vital to the transportation needs of the industrial park for here into the future. And it is not going to be a fun project for anyone that works or lives within the city of Washington that works in the industrial park. So I would just ask that everyone exercise some patience, and I will do everything that I can to communicate to the industries on road closures, things of that nature. But if you have any concerns, make sure you forward them to me and I'll get right on them. As far as start date, this has to go back to MoDOT for review still. And MoDOT is very understaffed at this time. So be patient. As soon as I know the time, I'll get it out to you guys. But we're really pushing hard for a mid to late July. So the good news is we were first out of the gates as far as STP funding, so we are ahead of all these other projects. New Haven has a pretty substantial sidewalk project that's being delayed as well. I know that for a fact, so just keep in mind.
Most of the traffic though will be open on Highway 100, just for the general. I mean, 100 will not be closed.
That is it's a correct statement. 100 actually will have free flow traffic when Bluff Road is closed, so there will be no stopping at Bluff and 100 once Bluff is closed. There'll be no need to. We're working with them right now on doing staging because there is a complete reconstruction in front of the Missourian, essentially from Memmy Freck Drive to Lang Drive. That entire pavement section has to be reconstructed. If you've ever been out there, it's rutting pretty bad. My guess is they would want to do that first. So we'll have to make sure that it's going to take a few days for people to get used to how do they get to their place of work. But once that's done, then they'll shut down Bluff. So I would see the project starting there, and then Bluff would remain open, And then once that gets done, then Bluff would be closed. So it would kind of be, but that's part of the communication that I'm talking about. So it'll be, it's a pretty major, it's a really major project for us. There's just not a lot of entry in and out. So I'm asking you to approve the contract.
Okay, any questions or comments regarding this? It's been a long time coming.
It is.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with KJ Understall Construction Company for the 2018 Bluff Road Improvement Project number STP 6400623 and amend the 2018 budget. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with Comanco Environmental Corporation for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Geosynthetics Installation.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Okay, another major project located in the industrial park area. This is the geosynthetic liner that essentially goes over top of the clay liner that's been constructed out at the landfill for our next cell. That cell should get us approximately 7 to 8 years of additional space within the landfill, within solid waste operations. Comanco is a low bidder. We've called, well, we discussed with our consultant, we've called various other people who've utilized them. They're quick, they get in, they get out. Right now, what we're seeing is there's a little issue with supply of this liner. So we have a conference call tomorrow. Andrew and myself do with Comanco to see if we could speed that process up. Right now, we were operating pretty much as anticipated, being done as soon as the previous cells fill up. So there's not a lot of contingent time left at the landfill, but nobody should be surprised by that. We have been able to buy about 2 or 3 months already. And we have worked with DNR to allow us to actually steepen up the slope a little bit on the area that's expanding, so that'll buy us a little more time. So I'm not concerned about having space at the landfill. It's just, I was hoping to be open by August, but it may go out to September now. But we're having space. People are coming to us. We've actually seen an uptick of the previous people who've left have actually came back and are paying the rates. So it's going well.
Good.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with Comanco Environmental Corporation for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Geosynthetics Installation. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the City of Washington to apply for funding through the Franklin County Transportation Committee for the West Main Sidewalk Project in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Okay, this is a read and introduce, and then we'll have a second vote. John, do you want to?
Yes, West Main Sidewalk Project, that's part of that NAFA funding that I just discussed. We can utilize Franklin County money to offset our local match. Right now, it's an 80-20 cost share. I don't know how familiar people are with this project, but it would extend a sidewalk from Teeman Drive to Catawba Place, a 5-foot sidewalk on the north side, meeting, I think, our goals of trying to connect subdivisions and communities to our downtown facilities, and where we have most of the pedestrian facilities. So it's just an offset. This is a competitive process. $50,000 is an obtainable number. So we are requesting you to support this, and we will submit this next Friday to that committee.
Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Waterman, to approve this resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the item. Thank you.
John, what's the total on that project?
Ooh, last estimate,
240.
Does that include the road?
Yes, that includes the road patch. It does. That is a full reconstruct of that location due to that water main break from, well, it's been a while now. But there's been a lot of, there was a lot of delays in order to get that done. And once we identified this funding, it just didn't make sense to get it all. I mean, I want it done all at one time. They're going to have the paver in there anyway to put the sidewalk in, so it made sense. And we've been trying to keep up on as best we can. I get calls, once every other week, really, but it's not as many as you would think. I would just say that the road is serviceable. I would just notify the public that it is bumpy through that section, but it's really no different than really any other trench that maybe has settled out on streets. So we keep up on it. I know Councilman Holtmeyer was questioning me a while, but I knew this was kind of in the works, so that's kind of why we've been delaying. So there was a reason.
Is there any advantage to replacing the water line under what we've redo, so we don't have a water main break after we get done resurfacing it?
Actually, Oak Street, that's why you're replacing water line there. So,
Right.
No, that's great. Yes, we have been, the streets that we're identifying for paving, we identify the sanitary sewer by cammering the line just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the actual sewer main itself. I kind of implemented a policy that if I see two water main breaks over a 2-block section, we'll replace that water line or not pave the street. So we have a process in place.
Okay, good.
In the past, that process was not. But we are looking into it, and we're doing it. I think we're sticking up on. Another example was MacArthur on 6th Street. MacArthur to Burnside, I believe, was another one that met that criteria, so we did replace it.
Before your time, the reason was the paver was too heavy for the water line, so we had breaks.
That is true. And I can never guarantee
but
you won't have water.
We got to check on the price to replace or what the circumstances are.
And what you're doing is replacing water line is an expensive process too, and it's the expectation that we do that in-house. So quite honestly, there's just not enough. You can't get to that fast enough and do that fast. So what I've been working with Kevin really close to give him our list earlier in the year, so that he can get all of his inspection work done on the sewer mains. He can go say, 2-inch water line, replace it. That's an automatic replacement. If we said count patches, or we go through the list of when we've had water main breaks, we'll replace it. That being said, as soon as we pave it, we'll have a break.
Right.
So I'm just saying it's a risk assessment, and you're never going to get everyone right, but we're trying to minimize them. A good one's Jefferson Street at the bridge. Whenever they did that water line connection underneath the bridge, you'll notice that there was a patch that was done this spring. Well, that whole water line was fixed, but as soon as we tied into the old, it broke there too this winter. So you could chase these things for a while. I don't want anyone to think the expectation is replace water line and never break, but there is a process in place to limit that risk. And that's what it is. Two patches on basically a 1 to 2 or a 2-block area, we will replace the water line.
Keep trying.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Anything
Mayor's
else?
report?
Okay, so in September, we're going to be changing the dates of a couple of meetings. First of all, the September 4th meeting is on a Tuesday, because that's the day after Labor Day. And then the week of our second council meeting of the month is when a number of us will be at the Missouri Municipal League Conference. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that council meeting to the 20th, which is a Thursday of that week. So we'll be, those of us going to Municipal League will be coming home on Wednesday, and then we'll have a council meeting on Thursday evening at 7. And then we will be canceling the administration operations meeting that month. So mark your calendar now. We'll be meeting on September the 4th for a council meeting, and the 20th in September, which is a Thursday. And then no admin ops. Okay?
Okay.
All right, second item is the Cities United Way Committee is sponsoring a sip and paint Friday evening. Gary Lucy will be doing the teaching. So anyway, they're going to be doing a sunflower. So if you have nothing better to do Friday evening, come on out. It's $45, and people are signing up. So. And that's all I have.
City Administrator's report.
We are going to, the police department is going to go ahead and offer some intruder training for, I guess you would call it, Chief, shooter training or
Active shooter training.
active
for
shooter.
City
That
Hall.
was the word I was missing. For City Hall, we've decided to go ahead and do that for the City Hall offices. We'll be looking at some of the other facilities. I know it was done for the library, and they had great reviews for it. So with that, we're going to be having that in City Hall on the 20th and 27th, but it also brought up the need to see if we wanted to go ahead and do it for the council chambers with you, the council, if you wish to go ahead and do so. So the 25th, which is next Monday, prior to the admin ops meeting, we could have that training for you at 6 o'clock if you can get here an hour early. For those of you that cannot, that's fine, but I just wanted to go ahead and bring that to your attention. So that was one item. We'll have that scheduled as long as you don't have any opposition to that. Second, Mary, I think, was working with Mark on a kind of an updated training on sunshine laws. That's the thing I couldn't remember earlier, Mary. So I think we're trying to set some dates for that for some of our committee and commissions that we've gotten newer members on those boards, and we want to make sure that they're aware of that. So I think we'll look for some dates, I guess, in the near future. We can email those because we haven't nailed those down yet, or have we?
Probably before a council meeting.
Yeah, we're going to shoot for before a council meeting. That way we don't call you in an extra night.
Can we include some of the staff in that, like our clerks?
We'll include boards, commissions, staff, whoever wants to attend.
Yes.
Boy, we can't wait to.
Yeah, we can't.
What do you have to say?
It's $5 a head.
Oh.
Proceeds to be donated to the city's favorite charity, me.
Oh, please.
Oh,
I
my.
thought that was United Way.
More than he's ever said.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's worth a shot.
Yeah. So anyway, we think it's probably necessary to go ahead and take. I don't think we've had that training for quite some time, and so it's always good to go ahead and be refreshed in that. So that's all I have. I do have 2 items for you in executive session.
Council comments.
Any comments this evening?
City Attorney's report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Sullentrup? Scornia?
Yes.
Pettit?
Yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Fun.